Greetings, loyal subjects of the Imperium of Man. I am Librarian Elias of the Adeptus Astartes. I am creating a series of recordings with the intent of educating the general populace of the dangers of the galaxy. All of this information comes from the Lexicanum, provided to me by the Adeptus Mechanicus. I will be reading verbatim from their archives. This recording will cover one of the few allies the Imperium has, a chapter known for its ruthlessness. The Carcharodons. The Carcharodons are a loyalist space marine chapter with a reputation for ruthlessness and brutality. Their official chapter name is the Carcharodon Astra, which, when translated to Low Gothic, reads as the Space Sharks. However, they are more widely known as the Carcharodons. They are a space marine chapter of unknown provenance that has recently carved itself a dark and brutal legend in the bloody wake of the Badab War. The Badab War is the name given to one of the most serious rebellions in recent Imperial history. Much of the information surrounding the Carcharodons' history is shrouded in myth or allegory, but fragmented pieces of data point to Carcharodons already being in existence as early as Millennium 32 during the Astropath Wars. The chapter's ancient history speaks of a day of exile, a time when the wandering ancestors have been banished from their home world and ordered out beyond the galaxy's edge. One thing is for certain, however, that the chapter was given a sacred duty to travel the empty spaces beyond the Imperium's borders, seemingly forever, to seek out and destroy the enemies of mankind. Despite the Carcharodons' ignorance on the matter, much information suggests that the chapter is at least partially descended from the Raven Guard, specifically sections of the Raven Guard that were exiled during the Great Crusade. For instance, the Carcharodons use ancient Raven Guard titles. For example, the Carcharodons' chapter master is called the Shade Lord, a title only known to have been used by exiled Raven Guard commander Arcus Fall during the Great Crusade, indicating that Arcus Fall may have gone on to be the founder of the Carcharodons known as the Forgotten One. In addition, the Carcharodons' chief librarian is called the Pale Nomad, a name used by the Raven Guard's 11th chapter, which was partially exiled during the Great Crusade and the Horus Heresy. The 11th chapter also used tactics which resembled those later employed by the Carcharodons. In addition, the chapter is related to the renegade Ashen Claws, which are descended from Raven Guards who abandoned the Imperium before the heresy. However, the Ashen Claws do not consider the Carcharodons full relatives, instead regarding them as mongrels, traitor-born monsters, and calling a captured World Eater a brother of the Carcharodons. This suggests the Carcharodons might be of mixed origin, or even chimeric. The Carcharodons are widely known as one of the main players during the Badab War. The Carcharodons' entry into the Badab War was as sudden as it was unexpected. The chapter's fleet, led by the battle barge Nikor, and it was composed of a mix of medium and light warships, arrived without warning at the edge of the Golgothan Wastes, and was initially met with alarm by loyalists and successionists alike. After a quick conference with the leaders of the loyalists, however, the chapter's alignment became clear, and the Carcharodons were warily accepted into the forces of the Imperium. Carcharodons quickly established a bloody reputation for itself as it engaged in a campaign of systematic annihilation of the worlds of the Endymion cluster, whose inhabitants still owed some loyalty to the Mantis Warriors, one of the two Space Marine chapters that seceded from around the Imperium, planet after planet was placed under a scorched world policy, infrastructure smashed, and countless multitudes slain, of which forced the hand of the Mantis warriors, whose honor would not allow them to stand by and see people suffer. This played into the plans of the Carcharodons quite nicely, and soon, all resistance from the Mantis warriors was crushed, and their days as an effective fighting force were over. Unable to deny their effectiveness despite his own misgivings, Commander Carib Cullen, the High Lord Commander of the Red Scorpions chapter, gave the Carcharodons the responsibility of attacking the primary infrastructure of Badab Primaris, while the Star Phantoms prosecuted the attack on Left Huron, otherwise known as Huron Blackheart, of the Astral Claws, which would later become the piratical Red Corsairs. Seat of power, the Carcharodons interpreted the orders in their usual, brutally efficient manner and sabotaged the reactor cores of the primary hives located on the planet. The resultant tectonic upheaval broke the back of the secessionist forces, but also kick-started the process of the world's demise. Countless loyalists died in the hurried retreat that followed, and to this day, it is said that the Star Phantoms hold the chapter in ire for what happened. The Carcharodons also fought during the siege of Endymion Prime, the engagement on Fulcrum 4C, and the fall of Badab. With the reign of the Tyrant of Badab at its end, the Carcharodons would return one final time to the Endymion cluster and aided the Fire Angels, descendants of the Ultramarines, with a zealous devotion to the Imperial Creed, in bringing back the worlds there into compliance with the blessings of the Fire Angels, whose dominion over the cluster had been granted at the cessation of hostilities. Carcharodons then visited the Tranquility System. There, their dark legend would be sealed. The hidden fortresses of the Mantis warriors were ransacked of supplies and war materiel. A whole generation of the system's young men were taken away to replace the losses the chapter had incurred during the war, forced to fight each other to the death to see who would be worthy to join the Carcharodons' ranks. With that, the Carcharodon fleet disappeared, apparently returning to the dark void above the galactic plane. During the age of the Dark Imperium, since the creation of the Great Rift, the Carcharodons had been granted the Mantis warriors' former homeworld of Otheka for their own. Like all Space Marine chapters, the Carcharodons have been part of several notable battles. During Millennium 32, the Carcharodons took part in quashing the Solar Rebellion. Then, in 888 Millennium 32, they took part in the Astropath Wars. Later, in 860 Millennium 33, the Carcharodons were convened as part of the Pentarchy of Blood, a gathering of 5 chapters of the Adeptus Astartes that were convened by the High Lords of Terra during the War of the False Primarch, where 5 loyal chapters were sent to destroy 11 Traitor Perdita chapters. Then, in 811 Millennium 37, during the 7th Black Crusade, the Carcharodons appeared to aid the Blood Angels. Then, in 211 Millennium 41, the Carcharodons aid an explorator fleet against Orc terror ships somewhere in the 800s of Millennium 41. The Battle of Zartak occurred. Zartak was attacked by a warband of Night Lords, and the Carcharodons were dispatched to end them. The year 901 to 912, Millennium 41, the Badab War took place. And finally, during Millennium 41, Carcharodons aided in the extinction of a gene-stealer cult on the Shrine World of Piety 5, where they were aided by the Ashen Claws. Their next major engagement would be the Indomitus Crusade, in which they helped defeat the Wordbearers on Budor 5. The Carcharodons' Geneseed is of unknown origin, but is quite unique, prone to degeneration and mutation, and exhibiting features similar to Raven God Geneseed. The Carcharodons have a pale, almost deathly pallor. They are also known for their liquid black eyes and vicious nature, frequently disregarding civilian casualties in conflict. Many of their ranks also exhibit extreme aggression and bloodlust, traits not usually associated with the Raven God. The Ashen Claws believe the Carcharodons to be of bastardized origin, suggesting that the chapter has a chimeric Geneseed. The Ashen Claw leader, Net Nev, called the World Eater the brother of Baal Shah, current master of the Third Company of the Carcharodons. The organization and tactics of the Carcharodons are not that of a regular Space Marine chapter. Carcharodons roughly follow the organizational tenets laid down in the Codex Astartes, but otherwise show considerable variation with regards to tactics. In particular, their preference for shock assaults and close combat make them similar to the Black Templars, at least in the eyes of the Fire Angels Marines that accompanied them during the length of the Medab campaign. The forces observed during the war show that, on the surface, the Carcharodons were deployed similarly to what might be expected of a Codex battle company, although it was noted that it was augmented by an auxiliary force of scouts, assault squads known as Devourers, and dedicated squads of Terminator armored veterans known as the Red Brethren. Captains have a variety of titles, from Reaper Prime, which denotes their duty to seek out new initiates, to Harvester Prime, which denotes their duty to seek out Archaeotech, or Battle Brothers are referred to as Void Brothers. Although the chapters seem to maintain a sizable amount of armored vehicles, the Carcharodons as a whole seem to prefer infantry-based strategies, relying on the battle prowess of its marines to carry the day. Lightning assaults presaged by reconnaissance by small scouting forces was commonly observed, the surprise often being the key factor in carrying the attack through. When resistance proves too heavy, or the reaction of the enemy too swift, the chapter's forces often quickly withdraw. This is to avoid heavy losses and, more importantly, to strike out at another direction. This is repeated again and again, until the weakness is eventually found, upon which the full brunt of the assault forces are brought to bear, bring the encounter to a swift end. The chapter's armory is noted to consist mostly of old-style power suits of power armor, particularly the Mark V Heresy pattern, and weaponry. Carcharodon's complement of Terminator armor in particular showed extensive modification to keep them combat-worthy. Like other Space Marine chapters, recruitment is the key to having an ample supply of soldiers. The Carcharodons acquire new recruits during bloody events known as Red Tithes. Red Tithes see the Carcharodons descend on an Imperial world, kidnapping many for trials, while taking many more as slaves or chapter serfs. The strongest and most promising recruits, however, are taken to be inducted as initiates in events known as Grey Tithes. The Carcharodons acquire Archaeotech and trade them with the Adeptus Mechanicus for new weapons and equipment. The Carcharodons are also known to recruit new initiates as well as materiel for the Renegade Ashen Claws chapter. Like many of the chapters, there are notable elements such as vessels or members of the Carcharodons fleet. The notable vessels include Nicor, a battle barge, and their flagship, the battle barges Annihilation and Scylla. The White Maw, an Exile-era Tyrant-class cruiser. The Mate, a strike cruiser. The Grey Harvest, a sword-class frigate. The Void Revenant, a Wrathhammer-class escort. And the Adamantius, a forge ship that produces the weapons and equipment for the Carcharodons. Of course, the Carcharodons have notable members within its ranks, starting with Tyberos, the Red Wake. Tyberos is the chapter master of the Carcharodons. He is a sinister figure, rarely seen outside of his ancient suit of Terminator armors, and whose otherwise soft voice promised a swift demise. He is also the leader of the Red Brethren of the First Company. Then there is Te Kohuranrangi, the Pale Nomad, otherwise known as their chief librarian. Man 4, the company master, Akamu, Harvester Prime, captain of the second company, Baal Shah, Reaper Prime, and the captain of the third company, Akia, the Reaper Prime of the third company, before Baal Shah, Kahu, the strike leader of the Red Wrath, a Terminator squad of the first company, Nikora, a chaplain of the third company, Tama, an apothecary of the third company, Uthulu, tech marine of the third company, Signifier Nico, a standard bearer of the third company, Dorthor, strike leader of the third company, first tactical squad, Nuritona, strike leader of the third company, second tactical squad, Ruak, strike leader of the third company, third tactical squad, Ikara, strike leader of the third company, fourth tactical squad, Codley, strike leader of the third company, 5th Tactical Squad, Baraki, strike leader of the third company, 10th Devastator Squad, Ari, strike leader of the third company. He leads the scout elements of the company. Rismore, a member of the Death Watch, a unique, specially trained Space Marine chapter that dedicates its every hour to Xenos hunting. Itako, a contemptor dreadnought of the third company, although who he was in life and how he ended up a dreadnought is a mystery to most of the chapter. And finally, Manu, a chaplain of the chapter. This concludes the information regarding the Carcharodons. More